Hello, in this PPT, we'll explain the concept of adjusted gross revenue AGR, its relevance, and the financial adjustments allowed by the government. This presentation is prepared by Professor Giri Hullur, Professor Yatin Zo, and Professor Abhijit Chilputkar from Symbiosis International University. To begin with, we'll look at few definitions. Definition of gross revenue and adjusted gross revenue. Gross revenue is the money earned through sales, services and other means. A company's total gross revenue includes money earned through all of its products and services offerings in that financial year. The adjusted gross revenue or AGR is the figure used by the tax collection authorities for charging of certain taxes from telecom operators. Certain adjustments are done to gross revenue in order to arrive at the AGR value. In the telecom sector, AGR is the base on which license fee and spectrum usage charges are computed by using the applicable rate. These charges are paid by telecom operator to government every year.
Let us understand basis of levy of tax, that is adjusted gross revenue to telecom operators. The basis begins with the government's power to grant licenses to telecom service providers called as TSPs, and it flows from the Indian Telegraph Act 1885. The Indian Telegraph Act 1885 is a law in India that governs the use of telegraphy, phones, communication, radio, telex and fax in India. It gives the Government of India exclusive privileges of establishing, maintaining and working telegraphs. The license fee levied on telecom service providers can thus be construed as the consideration for the license granted to establish, maintain and work telegraphs. Later on, the National Telecom Policy in 1994, known as NTP 94, liberalized the telecom sector and opened it up to multiple service providers, including those from the private sector. The early telecom service licenses operated in a fixed license fee regime. When the issue came up for charging the taxes, certain issues were raised by telecom service providers, which include, like, telecom service providers questioned the inclusion of various components of revenue in the reckoning of adjusted gross revenue, as well as the legality of the definition before TDSAT in the following anomalies. It includes several revenues unrelated to licensed activities under the license. It includes service items that strictly don't fall under the definition of revenue. It results in dual charge of the same revenues twice in the hand of different operators. It includes notional income that is unrealized or remains uncollected by the licensee. The main items raised by service providers are summarized as follows. First, exclusion of items of revenue, exclusion of specific items from gross revenue for adjusted gross revenue, and the last one, the gross revenue for purpose of levying license fee for DTH service would be the gross inflow of cash, receivable or other consideration arising in the course of ordinary activities of the direct to home enterprise from rendering of services and from the use by others of the enterprise resources yielding rent, interest, dividend, royalties, commissions and so on.
So friends, so far what we have seen is the definition of AGR. Then we had a look at what gives the government the right to charge taxes based on the AGR. Now since this issue had come in front of the Telecom Regulatory Authority, they consulted stakeholders, and on the basis of the recommendations, on the basis of the opinion expressed by the stakeholders, the following recommendations were submitted. So we will go through the recommendations of what constitutes the AGR and what does not constitute the AGR. So if you have a look, friends, whatever is the list of activity that requires you to have a telecom license, these activities will be definitely added to the AGR, and the other activities that can be done by any corporation and that does not require them to have a telecom license will be subtracted from the gross revenue. So if you just have a look at the slide and we just try to go to items one by one. If you see the topmost part of the slide, it has a heading called as subtract. All these items under the subtract title are supposed to be actually subtracted from the gross revenue of a telecom operator. For example, income from dividend or gains from foreign exchange, reversal of provisions of for bad debts, then universal service obligation receipts, income from property rent, revenue from sale of fixed assets. All these activities, friends, don't require a telecom license at all. So these are to be subtracted from the gross revenue for a telecom operator. But under the heading add, we have a list of about 9 items. If you have a look at each one of them, they require the corporation to have a telecom license, and that's why all these items are added to the gross revenue to come at the adjusted gross revenue. For example, if you take interest on refundable fixed deposits, these are deposits paid by the customers to the telecom operators. And why do telecom operators pay the telecom customers pay telecom operators the deposits? Because they have a telecom license. So this particular rationale is applicable for almost all the points that are there. And finally, if you from the gross revenue, if you subtract 7 items and you add 9 items, you come to the figure called as the adjusted gross revenue. Friends, with this we come to the end of the PPT on adjusted gross revenue. I, along with my colleague, thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.